We have people watching in Zoom land from around Hawaii and even on the mainland. And so today I just want to go over quickly our agenda because we've got a lot of exciting things for you. We have Lieutenant Governor Sylvie Luke, who will be giving us welcoming comments shortly. And then we're going to give a presentation about our biggest programs, Work for Water, which is workforce development, water quality projects. And then we've got an awesome talk. Our keynote speaker, Archie Kalepa, who flew in from Maui to be here with us. He is featured in this new article that I wrote for Hawaii Business, and we'll have copies of that in the back if anybody wants a copy, talking about Lahaina and the lessons learned from there. So it's a pleasure to have him here. And we have all of you are distinguished guests, so I would like to go and call out each and every one of you, but for the sake of time, we'll move forward. And I want to thank my staff because they have to, in our endless Zoom meetings, put up with my poo puns, because when you work in this business, you know that you have to use poo puns just to get through the day. So we like to say we're number one in taking care of 1 and 2, number 1 and 2. It's crappy work, but someone's got to do it. All right, now you're filling in. Now you're getting a sense of my ridiculous sense of humor. But our main motto is making sanitation sexy again. That was a joke. People, come on. We are trying to work on an issue that has been ignored for decades in Hawaii, and we kicked the can down the road. And now it's like plastics 10 years ago. I was fortunate enough to be working in the anti-plastic pollution field, and we just thought we were literally, never going to make any progress. And these shifts happen, and then all of a sudden, plastic pollution is one of the biggest issues in the entire world, studied at every single university. That happened while we were working on the issue, and same with wastewater. Wastewater, you could say is like the least sexy issue of all, but the awareness of it has gone through the roof over the last 5 years. And so that's thanks to everyone here in this room. This room is working on it, and efforts across the world, including the Gates Foundation and many, many other organizations, Dig Deep, which is here today, and then we'll talk about. We'll have some breaks, and just to explain again, we want you to go into these rooms, talk to our technology partners, because we are lucky enough to have brought in some of the biggest tech companies in the country to come out to Hawaii to help us with this problem that we have. They are loss leaders. They've been losing money, but they believe in the cause and they know it's worthwhile in the long run. So they will be handing out tickets as you go in and talk to them for the raffle tickets. We have some cool Patagonia prizes that we'll announce during the reception. All right, and just want to highlight that since our expansion over the last 4 years, we have brought in 3 major government grants. And part of our goal is to, part of our goal is to bring in these grants and this money to help people in Hawaii, because we have this huge issue. And there is more federal money available than there's ever been before. So we'll talk about that. I will go back just real quick. No, I skipped on it. This is our team right here. You can see them around. Let's give them a round of applause. Across Hawaii, and they will be introducing themselves. So please meet them while you're here. And these are the 5 pillars of what we do at WAI. And basically, very quick, is I started to talk about our tech partners. We bring in innovative technology, and then more importantly, we get it in the ground and do proof of concept to show that this works. Then we're working on policy and advocacy, and Lieutenant Governor was a major supporter of this work and helped pass major bills during her tenure as the chair of the Finance Committee. And then we're trying to bring in financial resources, these government grants that are, again, we haven't seen this kind of money for water and wastewater infrastructure since the New Deal, almost 100 years ago. And so finally, we're doing outreach and education, things like this, town halls around the state to educate people about the problem, because as much progress as we've made, there are still some people who are saying, oh, we don't need to do this. My cesspool, how many people have heard that? My cesspool works, there's no problem with it. Yeah, it works because it goes into some, in the common, tragedy of the commons, it's going underground into the groundwater and out to the ocean. And now we know the effects of that, which we'll talk about today. So we're really glad to have you here. We have, just as a reminder, everybody in this room, I think, knows this, but we have 83,000 cesspools across Hawaii. And just for those as a primer, cesspool is just a hole in the ground where there's absolutely no treatment. All the waste from a house goes, and it just percolates into the ground. That's 52 million gallons a day of untreated waste going into our ground and groundwater, and into our cooking nearshore waters. So that's something that we really have to take care of. There's some people that are starting to push back and say, oh, it's too expensive. We can't do this. We were the last state to do this by 3.5 decades. There's no going back. We cannot afford because too much is at stake in terms of water quality, our health, environmental reasons, but also just tourism. People are not going to come to an area where you have polluted waters and coral reefs that are declining fast because of this issue. So along with I want to thank our our tech partners that are here today. We have Arinco, Infiltrator, and we have Closina and Elgin. We have Fuji Clean in the house. We have other ones that we'll tell you about later on, but these are national leaders in their field, some of the most innovative companies in the country, in their areas. So want to get moving forward with our first speaker, who I was just teasing her, is like an American success story. I didn't know this. I've known Lieutenant Governor for a while when she was at the House of Representatives. But she was born in Seoul, moved over here with her family when she was 9. And after going through school here in college, went to law school, and is now one of the highest ranking Korean Americans in the US today. So really, it's such a pleasure to have you here. When you were chair of the Finance Committee, you were so helpful and supportive of these efforts. You passed 4 major laws that banned cesspools in the first place. And again, we were the last state to do that. And then mandated the conversion of all cesspools by 2050. So that's the deadline hanging over our heads. And then created the Cesspool Conversion Working Group, which some of us in the room served on here. Erica, who else? Myself, Ted Boland in the back, number of people. And so we came up with a list of recommendations, and basically throughout these presentations, that's what we're going to be moving forward. And on a final note, before I welcome up Lieutenant Governors, I want you to think about this issue not as a separate issue, in a separate box. It is integrated with all our other issues. Our water and our wastewater are intricately tied into the health of our entire ecosystem. So sometimes people don't like to think about it, but we're really trying to remind people why this is such an important issue. So with that, if you can help me welcome the Lieutenant Governor, Sylvia Liu.
For all of you folks for being here. You know, when I got invited to speak at the Sanitation Innovation Conference, I thought, okay, that's something new. But you know, one of the things, just in recent years, there is probably no single issue that has become a real forefront issue as water. The necessity of water, the necessity of clean water, the necessity related to that of having a good sewer system, sanitation system. And when you take a look at all major state and or county or even federal major project, public project works project, everything hinges on sanitation. So for instance, people talk at length about what's gonna happen at Aloha Stadium. Well, I can tell you this, nothing, at least for now, because there is no available sanitation, there's no available infrastructure. And you know, a lot of times people who are not in the development world, not knowledgeable about groundwater, cesspool, sewer system, infrastructure, people think you see just flat land and they can build anything, and that's not true. It really is dependent on available infrastructure, available water system, available sewer system, and all how those things integrate. So now we think about the major problem, as Stuart mentioned. What are we gonna do about the 83,000 cesspools that are in the state of Hawaii? 83,000 cesspools. If you think about that just for a second, these have significant, not just economic or environmental issue. It has significant long-term effects, not just on our islands, but in our ecosystem, our water system, in our natural environment. And it's something that must be done. But a lot of times in state government, when we make policy, we make mandates and we go, okay, we're gonna pass a law saying that by 2050, to give enough people time to convert, we're just gonna say 2050, no more cesspool. As every one of you folks in this room know, just by saying it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. And we tried all kinds of things. We tried tax credit, we tried different type of methods. We took a look at, okay, is septic an option? And then even with the working group, we tried everything. We still have significant number of things that we have to work on because we have not been able to move the needle on the 83,000. Even no matter how generous the tax credits are, you are asking individuals who basically opted to have no infrastructure. There's a reason why these individuals are living on land with no infrastructure, because those are lands and those are properties that probably cost less of value than lands and properties that have more infrastructure. So in a way, what society and the state and then the entire government has done, we are forcing people to live without infrastructure and then forcing them to convert, but they don't have the financial means to do it. And why did these gaps happen? It is that lack of infrastructure and lack of investments that we all need to take responsibility for. And so when I take a look at what are some of the opportunities, one of the things that I'm charged with is providing broadband access throughout the state. What the lesson out of COVID was that we depend on broadband for so many things, and broadband is something that we rarely think about until we don't have it. When we turn to either work from home, distance learning, distance working, even telehealth, we are dependent on broadband. But the reason why we are at a point where we can make significant strides is because the federal government has made a commitment to the state of Hawaii, along with many of our contiguous 48 states and others, is that they have made significant investment to bring affordable access, internet access to all the remote areas. So they have invested close to $500 million. And when I take a look at that, that's the kind of investment that we will need to bring our cesspools up to a point where we don't have cesspools anymore, wastewater, sewer system, our infrastructure up to speed. But it's gonna take all of us thinking outside the box. I'm glad Archie is here. What is happening in Lahaina has exacerbated our discussion about what we need. And we need to look at what happened in Lahaina, the lessons learned, and how do we take a look at some of the lingering issues we have had, whether it's affordable housing, lack of infrastructure, and bring those dialogues up to speed. So now, in addition to underground septic systems, underground infrastructure, we're talking about above ground. We're talking about, are there innovative solutions? Are there other alternatives that we traditionally have not talked about or thought about? And it's these kind of conversations to bring it to the forefront. And we need to have those discussions for us to move forward, for us to get to a point where we have to meet our goals. One of my pet peeves is, as policymaker, and Lila served with me for many years, both are pet peeves, is as state government, as policy leaders, we make mandates and we make goals all the time. We have renewable energy goals, we have housing goals, we have all kinds of goals. In fact, back in 1989, we had an early education goal to provide access to early education for all kids by year 2000. Well, that hasn't happened. So my biggest pet peeve is let's not let a cesspool mandate be another words on paper. We have to meet these type of commitments that we have set as ourselves, as policymakers, as citizens, as people of this great state to get it done. And it takes all of us. So thank you again to WAI. Thank you again for all who are participating to have a discussion on this important subject. So have a good conference and mahalo for being here. Mahalo.
That will be tough to follow, but I will do my best. Aloha, I'm Gabby Saba Zimmer. If I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, I hope that I will get a chance maybe at our Pohana reception after this. Today I'm looking forward to talking with you about our workforce development program and community outreach efforts with our Work for Water program. So the first thing I'd like to bring to your attention, if you are unaware, we have a silver tsunami that's happening in the wastewater and water industry. Oh, sorry. And I'm up here. And there is a high demand and low supply of employees in both the water and wastewater sectors, both nationally and here in Hawaii. So we are rapidly losing the experts that have operated and maintained our systems for the last decades. And that we are noticing in this next 10 years, about a third of the US water sector's current workforce will be eligible for retirement. And so we estimate that about 30 to 50% of the water industry positions will be left vacant. Here in Hawaii, we know that we have about 40 wastewater treatment operator vacancies. This was 60 up until, I think it was just about 2 months ago, thanks to Dr. Roger Babcock and his amazing workforce development course that is specific to centralized wastewater treatment plants. We'll get to that next. So what we are noticing is that workers with the potential to enter our sector often lack the exposure to decentralized knowledge. So our program is an answer to that need, and we are hoping to engage the next generation of leaders, and that requires early outreach, that requires opportunities for us to promote awareness, get into classrooms, get into areas where we can really talk more about green jobs, sustainable development, and really help our local community recognize that they can get into an industry that has stable career path, benefits, strong appeal, but also is something that they can make an impact. They feel like what we call aloha aina. They can really take care of the land and the community that they're from. So that's something that we're going to go over today. Our Work for Water program. So right now we are focused on Maui and Hawaii Island. As Stuart had mentioned, we have 83,000 cesspools across the island. Here you see Hawaii Island and Maui. All these little dots are cesspools. So they are prioritized by urgency of conversion. The yellow is least priority and the red would be the highest, orange is in between. So our program, we chose to actually start on Maui and Hawaii Island because we recognize that these cesspools are the most likely to need decentralized systems when they're converted, and therefore has the largest workforce capacity because they do not have people that are specialized and trained in a lot of the different technologies that are currently available here on Hawaii and might be open and available on the mainland that we hope to bring here. So big shout out to our program is funded by the Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. We mahalo the Department of Labor. We also mahalo Victor, who is our financial manager on this grant, and we are very grateful for all of their support. I'm sorry, Stuart, you want me over there, don't you? Okay, sorry, I walk and talk, I'll do my best. So our program is an introduction to the Hawaii wastewater field. It's about an 8-week program. It really covers the foundational knowledge and skills needed to enter or advance in the workforce. It is focused on decentralized systems. So when our participants end the course and graduate, they're given a certificate of completion. We actually found, and this kind of works nicely with what the Lieutenant Governor was sharing, we originally anticipated that this would be a hands-on in-person course. As we started our outreach and recruitment, we learned that in order to meet the needs of our target demographic and population and audience, it actually made more sense and was more responsive to have a hybrid model. For example, we noticed when we were big mahalo to University of Hawaii Community Colleges, Hawaii Community College, where we host our in-person places, our events, and University of Hawaii Maui College, where we host our networking events. Unfortunately, those are not necessarily accessible. Like if we're going to Hilo, somebody coming all the way from over here, that's hours of driving time. And so what we found was that it made more sense to make this an interactive hybrid program. And then we actually found we were able to cover a lot more material. And we'll get into that more. We are hoping, for example, we plan to film, you're gonna hear more about the supplemental environmental project. We're hoping to film that cesspool conversion and be able to use that content and curriculum to create some interactive learning for our participants and really see real world in context what it looks like in Hawaii to career cesspool. We also offer career services. So each participant in our program, this is actually something I'm really proud of because we offer for all of our participants resume support, and we also have each student chart a 5-year pathway to get from where they are currently, point A, to whatever field that they're interested in getting to. And we help them by introducing them to different apprenticeships, scholarships, on-the-job training opportunities, internships, or more education. So we really help them get from A to B. And we have found that a lot of our participants share that they haven't really received one-on-one support like that before. And we were actually really amazed by how grateful people are for that opportunity, which leads me actually next to my next bullet point. And I see Kane in the audience. So mahalo nui to our Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. We are so grateful to be members of their program. They really helped us with our outreach, our recruitment. They have this amazing program where they are helping out with Maui Lahaina survivors. They've done phenomenal things. If you don't know about it, please come talk to me and Takane because there's so many things to celebrate. But the way that they have helped us is they shared our course in this opportunity, and they actually have their own Hawaiian Trades Academy, which is another great, I'm sorry, Stuart, which is another great, I'm like inching over, another great opportunity or stepping stone after completing our course. So we're very grateful for that collaboration. They're offering more career services in the forms of career workshops for us, and when we expand, which I'll get to in a moment, we plan to even have even more collaboration. So very excited. And then our networking career expo events, after the 8 weeks, we cap it off. Our participants bring their resume. They get to meet actual employers. They get to learn from experts about why they chose their job, their career field, what they're interested in, and any advice, things they wish they knew before they got into the industry. I don't have a pun, but I was really hoping to get one by this one. And then our Department of Labor grant is actually ending on January 31st, 2025. So I would love to celebrate some of our success with you all. As I mentioned, we decided to take our course and make it hybrid. So it's both in person and online. We have created these interactive, and if I could please just point out Courtney right here. She is our co-program manager, curriculum development manager. And so we have created these interactive webinars. They're self-paced. They're multimodal, so we try to engage as many different learning styles as possible. I actually realized this when I was practicing last night. I have been a curriculum developer for 10 years now, and yeah, for this. But we really tried our best to make sure that all of our material was accessible, but we also do what I like to call low floor, high ceiling. So accessible, anyone who has less than a GED could access this material, really understand these complex topics in layman's terms or a simpler basic language. And we also offer articles, more websites, more different content and resources so that if they're interested in, say, a specific technology, or they want to learn more about water quality testing standards, things like that, we offer a variety of different additional resources that they can dive into deeper beyond what's required before our weekly Zoom sessions. So we have these lovely checks for understanding. So while they are self-paced, they are very guiding and scaffolded, if you will. And then we have these weekly Zoom classes where we actually apply the foundational knowledge that they've learned to a skill that they might actually need and could be able to bring to their community tomorrow. So you can't really see this, but it says case study number 2. We created a breakout room, and what This is, oh, I wish this was not so blurry. We're gonna send you a copy of the slides. What you can't see here is this says seepage pit, evapotranspiration. This is, I believe, some sort of drain field. These are all different types of tech. Then these are the different site conditions. And this is like a table of, oh, it's approved, it requires approval. If it's less than 100 feet away from coastal waters, you'll need certain systems. So we teach them based on these site conditions. If this was your homeowner, they work collaboratively in groups to then decide what would you recommend to this homeowner based on their site conditions. Would you recommend an absorption bed? Or what about an absorption trench? What about a seepage pit? Don't worry, we're not recommending that. It just encourage discussion. But then after we have those breakout rooms and discussions, we really talk about more ways that they could bring this knowledge and these skills to support their community with conversions. This is actually cohort 3. These are our current haumana in our class. They are lovely. We're super grateful to have them. This is Dr. Pang. He is our guest lecturer here. This is actually from one of our networking career expo events. But we are really grateful to all of you who have supported this project and who are, donating their time and your mana'o, your knowledge, your experience to help support our participants. So work for water expected outcomes. We were hoping to have 100 participants, and we were hoping that 70 participants would complete the program and receive the stipend. I'm going to call out my friend Chris McKay, who is my favorite student, so much so that we hired him at WAI. And we had an advisory council and a curriculum subcommittee, so mahalo to all of you that participated. Our curriculum subcommittee and advisory council was made up of employers, and we really took the time to backwards plan, find out if you were going to hire someone tomorrow. What do you need them to know? What do you need them to be able to do? What do you need them to be able to communicate? And they told us those skills, that knowledge, that content, and then we went from there and created those webinars you saw earlier. We've exceeded our outcomes. So as of today, we've had 100, so remember we were supposed to have 100 applicants, we've had 194 applicants. We were supposed to have 70 graduates. We had 79 by the end of cohort 2, and now we're currently at 102 in hopes that everybody completes the course. So we're really excited about this. And really just so grateful for all of the support and all the interest and engagement with our program. And our demographics. This is what I'm really excited to share with you all today. So when we first launched the course, cohort 1 was dominated by Hawaiʻi Island. Again, thank you to our Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement and your outreach efforts. You really helped us kind of even that out with Maui. We did have people who were very interested on Oahu who took the course. They did not receive the stipend. They were just interested in taking it. So that's great news for what I'm going to share with you in a little bit. But this is my favorite statistic. I don't know if any of you have been to a National On-Site Wastewater Recycling Association convention or have, been to certain conferences or meetings, but there's not a lot of females in the room. And so what I am very happy and proud to share is that we have had 48 of the people that responded to our survey. We have about 50% of our participants are female. So the future is female. We're going to keep going with that. I'm not going to go into all of these. Again, I'll share these slides with you, but this was from our last advisory council session where they had reviewed the webinars and gave us feedback on our curriculum. And we got a lot of really positive takeaways about how engaging and interactive our webinars were, how they're accessible, organized, informational, practical. They're specific to Hawaii and the Hawaii context, and they offer a great depth of knowledge. And all of our advisory council members, and we did not pay them to say this, agreed that our webinars were excellent or good, and about 70% said they were excellent. So we're very proud of that. That takes me into some community outreach. So in our inaugural year of Work for Water, we have engaged over 2,700 community members. We have engaged them through things like career fairs. This is in Kupu. This is my shameless plug. We host town halls. We've had 6 so far in the last year. Our next one will be on Thursday on Molokai. If you are interested in participating, or you know somebody in the community that might be interested in attending, this is an entirely in-person event. We're also going to be offering some really cool facilitation that's called conversation mapping, where we're really going to bring all of the community members in one room and give them the opportunity to center and amplify their voices. They'll look at different maps of Molokai. They'll talk about things they're frustrated about, things that they need help with, and we'll really work to identify what the needs and values of the community are before we try to introduce solutions. We really want to make sure that we're building that palina, that trust, those relationships, and making sure that when we go in, we are we're really just sharing knowledge, and we're coming in as a service and a resource. So anyway, Thursday, Molokai, come with us. And then our partner events. So we got to go to the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement Convention. If you were there, that was so amazing last week. Awesome job to Kane, who did a lot of the great work back there. We ran into our friend Nahuela Anthony, who was on Big Island today. I threw this one. So we are just really grateful to get to be a part of this wonderful community. This is me. I haven't gotten to this part yet, but prior to working at WAI, I was a kumu at Kamehameha schools, actually at the Kapalama campus. These are my last haumana before I came to WAI. I'm not going to get emotional. And I'm teaching them. So I taught these keiki when they were in the pandemic in first grade, and that was a lot. But we learned at the time all about the Akupua'a system. And for me, when we went back, I ended up actually, so at the convention, we learned a lot about just the need to making sure that Hawaiian voices are represented at every single table. They deserve to be involved, especially we are on their land. Oh my goodness. It was really important to make sure that we are centering the people who are impacted the most by this. Wow, including these beautiful souls. And here, what we're doing is we just did a really cool project where I got to go back and see my past students, Haumana, and taught them about the Akupua'a system, but in a different context. How in Hawaii, it is so important that people recognize that water quality and wastewater management are interdependent. You cannot have good water quality without appropriate and sustainable wastewater management. And so that was my fun little story about this was we taught them how to use, thanks to Sea Grant, the Hawaiʻi cesspool prioritization tool. And we told them, where do you like to go with your ohana? Do you like to go to the beach? Do you like to go, hiking? They all found their favorite locations across the island. And then we said, do you notice any cesspools? And they started looking, and it took no less than 5 minutes to start hearing, oh, Tutu's got a cesspool. Wow, I gotta let Uncle know he's on a cesspool. So Dr. Roger Babcock is somebody that brings up very often, like with the plastic movement, sometimes it really takes the keiki to be the agents of change. And so that's something that I'm hoping to do more of. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very passionate about working in the classroom and with keiki. So if you would like to collaborate with me on that, I would love that. And I'm over time, so I'm gonna go real fast. These are just some statistics of our town halls. If you wanna scan the QR code, this will take you to our Molokai registration. We're gonna provide dinner. So if you please make sure that you're registered so we buy enough stew, basically. But out of the 269 participants across 6 town halls that we've held in the last year, we had an overwhelming response in terms of our poll. Here we had 6 different town halls with pre and post poll. In our post poll, we essentially just asked, on a scale of strongly agree to strongly disagree, how much do you feel your awareness has increased? So about 83% said their awareness increased from the town halls about environmental health issues related to cesspools. 75% said that we helped increase their awareness with government mandates related to cesspools. And about 80% said we helped raise more awareness about wastewater drops. And that takes me to our very exciting news that we're looking to celebrate. Oh, and as I come back here to the town hall really quick, I'm sorry. I also want to give a big mahalo nui, and Stuart and I kind of knew we would just be thanking you all as we were going through this, but mahalo to the County of Maui officials, to the Department of Health who are coming to this Molokai Town Hall with us, to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, the Capacity Collaborative who will be facilitating that beautiful conversation mapping exercise, and the Hawaiʻi Rural Water Association. We really appreciate your support. They will all be participating and then available for our expert Q&A panel, which is how we host our town halls. How am I realized I needed to share that. But yeah, so we're really excited to share with you all that WAI and Picture have been selected to receive a $1 million grant through the EPA's water infrastructure, important, water infrastructure workforce development program. We were one of 13 programs that were selected. We were actually the only program selected in Group 5, which was specific to communities that are dependent on septic systems and well water. And we plan to use this funding to help us replicate and extend our Maui and Hawaii Island courses. We still have a lot of people who are interested in taking them there. We plan to expand to Kauai and to Oahu. And we're really, really excited about this opportunity. Now we went into this knowing, so the program I just shared with you, 2-year program, same budget. This is now going to be a 3-year timeline, same budget. So annual budget will be less. And instead of being on 2 islands, we're expanding to 4. So we're essentially doubling our workload. Now we did this intentionally. We went in, we knew that we had a really awesome program. And we did this so that we structured our budget so that all of those funds can really go into amplifying the program. So now our next challenge that we are happily accepting is that we are looking for supplemental funding, really to help us make sure that we can amplify the capacity of the full project across the 4 islands over 3 years sustainably. Yes, so, so I would love to talk with you more about that if you are interested. Our program, we feel that this is a really, because the EPA has already vetted it, I mean, they're pretty persnickety federal agencies, so if it's good for them, we hope that that will encourage other maybe donations or foundations to support our program as well. So for the EPA grant objectives, it's a 3-year timeline. We're going to continue to increase public awareness through those community events and town halls. We're going to have our expansion across the 4 islands. And then we will also be focusing more on the job training opportunities. One of the things that we have noticed when we first went in, again, we thought hands-on, really gonna be technician focused. What we've learned is that where we are right now with our cesspool conversion timeline, we actually need a lot more people involved in the regulatory side of it and more of the design and the installation as well. So what we've noticed is we've got this, what we thought was going to be very technician focused is really more of a broad scope of different career fields and all the different players, water quality engineers, Department of Health, all those different types of roles that we feel should be supported to help this effort of converting 83,000 cesspools. So big mahalo to the workforce development councils of each county that have stepped up and are helping us create and find already on-the-job training opportunities that our participants can go to, and American Job Centers, and to our collaborators who are helping us look into the idea of maybe having some more paid apprenticeships or unpaid apprenticeships and on-the-job training, like for some agencies that we know are understaffed and overworked. So the last thing of our grant objective is that we hope to have, we will be hosting an online library of all these amazing resources that we have collected so that everybody can have access to these fantastic materials. And with that, I just wanted to share this one student testimony. My takeaway, wastewater is a huge industry in Hawaii with lots of different ways to plug in. There are many businesses and career opportunities associated with cesspool conversion. That was my biggest takeaway. So I'm glad this is also one of the participants' biggest takeaway, but there really is so much opportunity. That's what I've really learned, that we really have a really awesome opportunity for us to create economies of scale, keep it all local, really offer these strong resources to the people that deserve it most. And with that, I'm going to, one last thing. I promise you're gonna wanna hear about this. So we are very excited to have the Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap Initiative be an opportunity here in Hawaii. When it was first piloted, Hawaii was not able or eligible to access these funds, and now we are, and big mahalo to all of those that help make that happen. But essentially, this Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap Initiative is really offering technical assistance. So the EPA and the USDA have funds to offer water TA, technical assistance, to communities, and very similar to what I was talking about with that conversation mapping. The idea is to support the communities in identifying the problems, the wastewater challenges, develop plans, build capacity, develop application materials to access water infrastructure funding. What kind of funding, you might ask? Our Clean Water State Revolving Funds would be one area that we could access because this money is sitting on the table and we really need to get it and put it into our community's hands and help make this money work for us. So we have already applied on behalf of the HANA community. We are really excited about that, and we are hoping to help support other communities in applying for this amazing initiative. It's 750 words for the application. It's so basic and it's so easy. Every single person should be applying. I would be happy to share more with you. So please come find me if you'd like to talk with me about that. And now I'm going to embarrass Christina because I call her my water quality queen. So please welcome, guys, water quality queen, Christina.
That the great work that Gabby, Courtney, and the Work for Water crew have done. It's gotten national recognition. People are asking to borrow our whole setup and curricula. So it really is on the radar. And we're very lucky to have Christina and Nick, who are just both PhD students and some of the top water quality specialists in the state. And so I'll pass it to Christina.
Aloha, everyone. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about WAI's water quality program, which I manage with the help of Nick Story, if you could please your hand. This is our water quality team at WAI. And basically, water quality is the cornerstone of why we do all this work. So it's why these workforce development programs are so important, why bringing all the technology that you're going to hear about later today is so critical. It's all in the goal of healthy watersheds, clean water, healthy beaches. So just as a quick review of the wastewater impacts to coral reefs and marine ecology, wastewater pollution and herbivore management are two of the most important factors that impact reef resilience to climate threats. And it's really important that wastewater is managed appropriately so that additional nutrients and pollutants aren't coming onto the reefs and stressing out these fragile and important endemic ecosystems. There's additionally research that has showed that invasive algae outcompete native limu in wastewater polluted groundwater. So it's not just the coral and the fish, but also our native limu. So multiple ways that wastewater pollution negatively impacts the marine ecosystem. There's also impacts on culture and recreation, subsistence fishing, gathering of marine foods is negatively impacted by these negative impacts to the reef. We also need to think about the health of our fish ponds and native aquaculture and the local ia. And then, of course, in Hawaii, so many people are closely engaged with the ocean all the time. So we swim, surf, fish, keiki are playing in the water, and with wastewater pollution and pathogens entering the system, there's a risk of illnesses and infections from pathogens in the water. So those are some of the reasons that's so important to consider water quality and wastewater pollution to our coastal waters. And so there's a few different ways that our water quality program is engaging. We are helping to start up community monitoring programs in multiple communities around the islands. We're also working on a public health tool, which I'll tell you a little bit about, for the public to report instances where they may have gotten sick from swimming or interacting with water. We're helping with a statewide coordination network with lots of different other agencies and nonprofits to try to pull together the water quality knowledge and expertise from folks working all over the island in all different aspects of water quality, and really pulling that knowledge together and understanding what are the gaps and opportunities, ways to collaborate. And finally, we're involved in some research projects that overlap with organizations such as the University of Hawaii, Arizona State University, and the Surfrider Foundation. So we have lots of great collaborations on the research and science side as well. So for this talk, I'm gonna go a little bit quick because I don't wanna run into our keynote speaker's time too much. So I'm just gonna talk quickly mostly about the community monitoring programs and some of our research. So there are two community monitoring programs that I'm gonna share about today. One is in Anini on the North Shore of Kauai, and the other is in Milili'i on Hawaii Island. So I'm gonna start talking about Milili'i. So this is a really special place. This is an area of really healthy reef, and it's also the last remaining native Hawaiian fishing village is located in this region. And in addition to the fishing village, there's also a subdivision that is being rapidly developed, and lots of septic systems are going in the subdivision. And the geology of the area is basically lava rock. So when septic systems and cesspools are in that kind of geology, it's very easy and fast for wastewater to seep into the marine environment. So this plot, which is a little blurry, sorry about that, but it basically just shows the growth of housing density in the middle of the E area from about 1960 to the present. So you can see that there's been a rapid increase in the number of homes that are present there, and they're all on septic systems with some cesspools. And then on the right, you can just see a map of the community-based assistance fishing area zones. So this is a highly managed area, and it's a very special area that's managed by the Native Hawaiian Fishing Village. So there's two really kind of interesting communities that share this area. So in middle of the E, the key wastewater threat, like I mentioned, is the existing cesspools and septic systems, as well as the construction of up to 700 additional septic systems with the subdivision development. So we're collaborating with the Hawaii Marine Education Research Center, which is part of Arizona State University. And we have some folks over there who are helping sample the water along the coastline for various different parameters that can indicate potential wastewater pollution. So we're looking for fecal indicator bacteria, nitrate, which is a nutrient that is present in wastewater. And we are also looking for parameters like salinity, so we can see where fresh water is coming in, and turbidity, which is the clarity of the water. In front of the fishing village, these are the different sites that we've been sampling. And you can see anywhere that there's yellow or red in the pie chart are areas that we've been detecting fecal indicator bacteria. So if it's red, that means that it is above what's called the beach action value, which is a threshold that the Department of Health uses to close a beach if the fecal indicator bacteria are above that mark. So there are some areas right in front of the fishing village that have consistently high fecal indicator bacteria, and some that occasionally spike. We also measure for nitrate, which is again a nutrient found in wastewater pollution, also agricultural pollution. Nitrate in front of the village is consistently above thresholds for environmental regulation. And in front of the subdivision, we've been having trouble detecting the nitrate. And there's one thing I want to point out about these two areas. Right in front of the village, it's kind of more of a lagoon type of system. It's more protected reef area. Whereas in front of the subdivision, it's basically sea cliffs and a lot of rapid dilution. So we know that there's hundreds of septic systems there discharging directly into lava rock, but we're not able to detect the signal using these methods. So we're looking into different kinds of methods to try to get a handle on where and to what quantity pollution is entering that more dynamic and deep water ecosystem. But definitely in the fishing village, there's about 40 or 50 cesspools that are right along the coast in the fishing village, and you can definitely see the impacts both in the fecal indicator bacteria and the nitrate right on that nearshore reef. So our second water quality monitoring program is in Anini, and Anini is a really special place. It's on the north shore of Kauai. It's one of the largest lagoons in the Hawaiian Islands. It's about 2 miles long, protected lagoon. So it's an incredibly important fish nursery area. There's a lot of concerns in the community because of the increase of algal mats, cyanobacterial mats, macroalgae that are observed typically in the summers when there's less wave action flushing the lagoon. So land-based pollution is entering the lagoon, there's less flushing, more nutrients accumulate, and then we're seeing algae outbreaks. If this continues over a long period of time, you can potentially get what's called a phase shift from a coral-dominated ecosystem to an algae-dominated ecosystem. And that basically reduces the amount of biodiversity and the amount of fish that can survive in that type of system. There's also development in the watershed where there's concerns about increased sedimentation. You can see this picture. This is from a rain event with a high amount of sedimentation entering the lagoon. And one other concern is that there's several septic systems run by the county that are right in front of the lagoon, basically installed in the sand, maybe 50 feet from the shoreline. So there's a lot of public use of these septic systems and not high enough treatment to prevent the discharge of nutrients into that sensitive lagoon ecosystem. So the community and the Division of Aquatic Resources have been monitoring the biological life inside the lagoon and have noted that there's been widespread coral bleaching overgrowth of macroalgae, as I just mentioned, lower fish abundances, high sediment inputs, and also outbreaks of coral disease, which can be related to wastewater pollution as well. Oh, and I just want to say, I forgot to mention this earlier, this is a collaboration with Reef Guardians, and Reef Guardians is an environmental education organization. They do a lot of great work with keiki, educating them about marine resources. So here's one of our Reef Guardians volunteers taking samples. This is a map of the Anini Lagoon ecosystem. You can see all these different areas where we're sampling. That includes stream sites and also the sites in front of those county septic systems that I was talking about. So on this plot, it's probably a little bit hard to see, but basically anything that's in light blue is freshwater sites. So that's areas where there's streams entering the lagoon. And this is nitrate. So basically anything that's above this dotted line here is a nitrate exceedance. And anything that's above this solid line is a nitrate exceedance for salt water. So basically all of our freshwater sites have been really high in nitrate throughout our sampling. And all the marine sites have had like at least one exceedance at some point. There's of course more flushing in the marine system, and you may sometimes see a nitrate exceedance and sometimes not, but depending on tides and things like that, sometimes it is picking up high nitrate values. We're also sampling for fecal indicator bacteria in front of 6 different freshwater sources that enter the lagoon. This line here is the beach action value threshold. Again, that's where the Department of Health would close the beach if they were the ones sampling. We're just doing volunteer level sampling in collaboration with the Surfrider Foundation. But you can see that all of these sites are really high in the fecal indicator bacteria above that beach action value threshold. So one of the next things that we want to do in Anini is we have high nitrate values, we have high fecal indicator bacteria values. And the next step is to do some source tracking to find out if that's really coming from wastewater or if it's coming from some other source of pollution. So that kind of wraps up our community monitoring program section. And I'm just going to move really quickly through these next 2 items. And definitely feel free to come and talk to me and Nick on break about these things that I'm going to go through a little quicker. So one tool that we're working on developing is called Seasick. And this is basically a tool, online tool, where folks can fill out a form if they, if you go swimming or surfing and you end up getting sick to your stomach or getting an infection in your skin or your eye, sinus infection, whatever comes from that. This is a place that the community can go to report those instances. And then the goal is that we can get enough traction and enough popularity on this tool that we can start mapping where folks are coming up with, with gastrointestinal illnesses or skin infections, and see how that correlates to areas of high cesspool density or other potential wastewater pollution issues. So this is a kind of a tool, it's a program in development. We're seeking funding currently to really get this up and running and do a lot of promotion of the tool on social media, through canoe clubs, through other nonprofits, surf and dive shops. We need to get the word out to the ocean using communities so that folks know that they can report here, and they can also look at the tool to see where people have been reporting illnesses and infections. So I have a section about some research that we've been doing in affiliation with University of Hawaiʻi. I know I'm over time already because it's getting a little crunched. So I will try to just summarize this really quickly. But, also it looks like my slides got a little mixed around. But so basically, for detecting wastewater, the Department of Health and organizations like Surfrider Foundation will go out and take samples of water and take it to the lab. And it'll take a day or 2 before you actually get the results and can report it out to the public. So for an environmental study, that's fine. But then if you're trying to protect public health and let people know when the water is dirty and maybe they shouldn't be swimming, it would be really great to have faster notification than 24 to 48 hours after the fact. So we're working on methods to rapidly detect wastewater pollution. One example of that is fluorescence proxies for wastewater. So that's basically trying to use instrumentation to give like a in situ, like in water proxy rather than going to the lab and culturing bacteria. So we've been working with a fluorescence instrument for the last year or so. I'm gonna try to go kind of quickly through this. We deployed at the WAI Yacht Club, which is, I'm sure many of you know that WAI has some dirty water issues. So you can see here like a nice clean morning versus a muddy, dirty morning after a rain event. And we did find that the fluorescence instrumentation was able to detect the same kind of spikes as we saw in the bacteria culturing method. So you can see this blue line is the fluorescence readings, and the orange line, which is a little hard to see, but it spikes at the same time. So you can see that it's following really closely with our fecal indicator bacteria index, which is really great. And then additionally, the fluorometer can capture high frequency oscillations. So you can see all of these like lines here going up and down. These are tidal oscillations. So what that tells us is that, you know, if you're using an instrument that is deployed in the water constantly, we can see rapid shifts in how much risk there is of there being wastewater using this proxy. And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. This picture on the bottom, this instrument is deployed right next to another instrument, and that instrument is a University of Hawaii Pacific Islands Ocean Observing System sensor that is linked via telemetry to the internet. So that's giving data real time all the time. So if we continue to get good correlations between our fluorescence instrument and bacteria, we could potentially link in the fluorescence sensor to that data telemetry network and get real-time data, which is really a great benefit for public safety. The last thing I'm going to mention really quickly is that there's a water quality story map that we have developed. Nick has helped a lot with this effort. It's basically showing a lot of the different studies about wastewater pollution mapped onto the Hawaiian Islands, takes you on a tour of all this different work that's been done throughout the islands. And there's a couple different options. You can click in and see really detailed wastewater studies by watershed, or you can just take a flying tour through the story map and get the highlights. That'll be running during the reception if you guys want to come check it out, and definitely ask me or Nick any questions about that resource. In the future, our water quality program is pretty new and we're still kind of ramping things up, but we have a lot of exciting things on the horizon. We're ready to start an additional community-based monitoring program, and we're currently in the scoping phase. So definitely would love to hear you guys' feedback on if you have communities that need assistance with wastewater monitoring or are interested in that kind of thing. This could also be collaborations between existing organizations. But that's something that's on the radar right now. And we would also, I'm gonna kind of just skip through a little bit, we're also really looking forward to being able to provide environmental sampling support to technical pilot projects. So when our amazing tech partners are coming in and putting in new types of technology, converting cesspools, we really hope to be able to support those efforts by providing like before and after water quality monitoring in the ecosystem to help contextualize and show why it's important. So that's it for our water quality program, and I think next up is our keynote speaker.
All right.
Just to put in context, what Christina was saying is basically the science that we have now and the technology is way behind. The best thing the state can tell you is you shouldn't have been swimming yesterday. That's not extremely helpful, is it? So what she's developing and what we're working with, we have community partners here with Erica at Coral, with Kim Polinsky at the Nature Conservancy, is we need real-time data because we need to catch up to date because our water quality is deteriorated in a major way. The good news is that we can turn it around. And so it's great to have this kind of cutting edge science because that is the cornerstone of what we do is water quality and protecting that for everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker today, Archie Kalepa. How many people know about Archie? He's a legendary waterman. To give you a sense, I mean, he was one of the first people to really promote stand-up paddling and be doing that when there were only a few of them around. And he was also one of the first to do toe-in surfing at places like Jaws that, waves as tall as this building, it seems to me. That's my perspective. I know that they're not that tall, but it seems like. And he's also, as kind of head of Maui Ocean Rescue and Safety, when I was writing my book, Eddie Would Go, I was doing a lot of research in Pierce Hart about these watermen, and particularly native Hawaiian watermen who have changed lifeguarding in the way it's done around the world. And so he and Brian Kealana and Terry Hui and these just amazing guys started using jet skis for ocean rescue. That has revolutionized ocean safety around the world. It's not done any way remotely like it was in big waves and conditions. And so the safety levels have gone way up at surf contests. And with the extreme surfing we need extreme rescue measures. And so they almost bring like a military style organization and just steps and worst case scenarios and planning all of this. It's fascinating to learn how they really study this and strategize every potential situation. And so for his many accomplishments, he's been awarded the Eddie Akau Waterman Award and been inducted into the Hawaii Waterman Hall of Fame through the Outrigger. And I was very lucky, as I mentioned before, to be able to interview Archie for this article that I was writing about Lahaina and the lessons learned there. Because Archie was involved with the Lahaina injection wells case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. How many people remember that? And we won at the Supreme Court level, and it basically said you need to use, when you're going to treat wastewater to this high level and spend millions and millions of dollars in these plants, cost hundreds of millions to build, we should be reusing it, right? Especially in the era of climate change and increasing water insecurity. So it's real important that we do this. And he was involved, supportive testimony in that lawsuit. And we were kind of asking Maui County, like, let's use that treated wastewater for fire prevention before, because Lahaina had already had these fires. When the fires happened, Archie was one of the first people to return using a fleet of jet skis and his friends, this network, when the roads were completely closed and there was no access. They were bringing food and supplies in, coordinating with the mayor, the governor, and even at the national level for relief efforts. So he was there on the front lines. And, I want to acknowledge that we're doing this here at the Hawaii Leadership Forum office. And there are a number of fellows in the office here that, leadership is not about a position or a title. It's about fulfilling a role and meeting responsibility when it's needed. And so it's not hierarchical. It's people who show up and do the work. And Archie was there after the fires and really just received kind of national attention for how well he did that. And when I think about my next book, I would love to write about you, my friend, because you are a very impressive man and you embody leadership. So please help me give a warm welcome for Archie Colette.
Aloha, everyone. Where do I start? I wish we had this 30 years ago. Really. I wish we would have paid attention to these kinds of things. We'd be in a way better place today. What happened to Lahaina has brought everything to the surface. It has really, really allowed us to see a whole lot clearer about the things that need to happen and the things we need to do so that for the next 7 generations, we have a home. And how important that is. how important this work is. And I want to thank Gabby for mentioning that our Hawaiians deserve a seat at the table because they hold the indigenous knowledge that's been passed down for generations. You know, my grandfather told me, why are they building the seawall here? All the sand's gonna disappear in Kaanapali. I'm talking about Mala Wharf. I thought to myself, what is he talking about? My career as a lifeguard, I've seen it happen. I've heard over and over and over our indigenous people speak about their aupua and how important those values are to place and how connected they are to the success of that place, but how little we listen to it. We have to figure out a way to connect those lines. Because with the science and the indigenous knowledge, we can come up with a better solution. How to create change. You know, what happened to Lahaina, I'm gonna take you on a journey. And it's gonna get a little bit emotional, but it's gonna come back full circle to the reality of today. When that fire happened, I was not there. And I say to myself today is, thank God I wasn't there because I wouldn't be here today. I probably would have perished in the fire helping people. I remember coming up with the plan of how we're gonna get back to that place that nobody could go to. And the people that I called, and the people that responded and said, okay, Archie, let's do this. And the way we decided to do this. We got all the jet skis together, we got the boats together. When we showed up at Kaului Harbor, decided to conquer and divide. Half the team would go around Truco, Kapaloa. The other half of the team would go to Ma'alaia. Ma'alaia was closed at the time. Made a phone call to one of the people in the police department. Said, Archie, we're going to open it for you guys. You guys can go. When I got to Ma'alaia, it was chaos. There was no leadership. Everybody was confused and nothing was moving. Nobody was loading the boats. Nobody was trying to put boats in the water to get back to Lahaina. We said, we're going to load up this boat, and this boat. We're going to launch these 4 skis. You're going to clear the way and start launching the boats. As I was getting on a boat, a lady said, I can't find my mom. She's not answering the phone. Can I jump on your boat to go look for her? I said, yes. On the way to Lahaina, I told myself that I'm going to sit where nobody can see me crying. Sat in the very corner of the boat. As we came into Lahaina, someone who has spent my entire career knowing the landmarks, the navigational landmarks from sea to land, is unrecognizable. What I saw was what I saw as a little kid in Time Life magazine. Black and white pictures of Hiroshima. That's what I saw. People started to cry. I tried my best to hold my tears. The captain asked me, Archie, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to sit here for 20 minutes. Because I didn't know what to do. And I said, let's call the lifeguards. Because a Coast Guard had pulled up and said, you guys can't go in. Called the lifeguards and they pulled up and their faces were charred black. For someone that was a chief, who's been retired almost 15 years. I said, where's your mask? They said, Archie, they didn't issue us any mask. We've been working for 24 hours. I said, I need your help. I need to get to land. They brought in the lifeguard truck to Mala Wharf that was closed. Because today they're recognized as emergency service. Came, we went to shore, we loaded up the truck with the supplies that we had on that boat. A few other boats followed us and unloaded their stuff and we left it right there at the dock. The drive to my home, something I don't want to explain. And I hope nobody ever sees. But the people that I saw walking were like mummies, lost, confused, no direction. Through all of this in my mind, I was thinking, how could this happen? Got to my home, we stood up the first hub. He said, Archie, what are we going to do? Well, first thing, we're going to stop communications. There's no communications from this side of the island to the other side of the island. We stood up a comms unit. Whatever supplies we had, we started the first hub at my house. I told that team, you give without asking. Somebody asked for 3 generators, you give them the 3 generators. Somebody asks you for a whole pallet of water, you give them the whole pallet of water. Conversation in my head began about climate change. When I look at Lahaina, I see 2 things. Green and dry. Draw the line in the sand. All of Kaanapali is green. All our Aupua, our people, the land is dry and barren. Then I look back 150 years. Industrialization, commercialization, devastation. I remember calling the mayor and said, what's going on? And he said, we have this, this, and this. I said, that's not true, Mayor. I'm in ground zero, and this is what's going on. So we stood up an incident command that fed them the information that we could feed the community. We started feeding, serving dinner. And I told the mayor is, I want the truth. So I got to tell the people the truth. There's nothing left. There's no trust. People have to believe in someone they trust. First meeting I had, there was maybe 4 people. Said, I want to talk to the director of the water department. I want to talk to the director of state health department. Because I need to tell the truth. Even if it was the same thing every day. By day 7, we had over 200 people attending dinner, wanting to hear the truth. A lot of days it was the same, but it was the truth. in those meetings, began a conversation with the head of FEMA, Bob Fenton, the head of the Department of Health, the mayor's office. I met Martha Stewart. Sorry, not Martha Stewart, but Martha Guzman. Sorry. She was from Washington, D.C. And I told her, we need to fix sewer system, Hawaii. This was our chance to get federal funds to do something that was affecting our waters. You know, you can't protect what you don't know. You just can't. Before the fires about 9 years ago now, I was asked to fight to return the water to the stream. I said no. The reason why I said no, because that is a lifetime commitment. The sacrifice can be possible is losing your family. But it was my wife who said, no, you need to go fight. We fought with knowledge, not with anger. We won the rights to the water back. It was dry for 130 years. That stream was dry. And I thought by winning that water, I was able to grow taro in my family's taro patch. I cannot tell you what I learned. It's not about the taro patch. It was about the native life that lived in that stream. I couldn't sleep. I called Mark Dicos and I said, Mark, am I killing the reef? He said, no, Archie, it's when a stream doesn't flow and then there's a flood. Sediment will inundate the reef and kill it. It is when it flows every single day, you create a balance and it begins to take care of itself. To a point today, Army Corps of Engineers wants to take down the barriers of that stream to let the water flow. The last 3 years, I've seen a reef blossoming. You can't protect what you don't know. I watched my home, Lahaina, the many limos that existed in that place no longer exist. In that time, we tried to do a limo restoration. Wife came down here, went to the limo class, brought the limo home. I flew home, opened the icebox door, and I said, I know that smell. It smelled like my grandpa's icebox. No longer exists. I'm glad that fight went to the Supreme Court. At the time, the mayor was Mr. Victorino, and he called me and he said, Archie, how dare you go against me? I thought you were my friend. I said, you are my friend. But my place becomes more than friendship. And he said, that's not happening. I said, you know what, I'll take you, you bring your mask and your fins, and I'll take you and I'll dive with you and I'll show you exactly where all of this is happening. Indigenous knowledge, important to the success, the future of an island. Going back to this fire, we have a blank sheet of paper. Sail plan for this canoe, this place, our island. Can rewrite the sail plan. The sail plan has to be successful for the next 7 generations. So when I ask each and every one of you in this room to contribute to the sail plan, but you're not going, You're gonna put your 6-month-old child on that canoe who cannot take care of themselves. You're putting your grandmother on that canoe who cannot take care of herself. So when you write to the success of that sail plan, you're writing to the success of their generation. That grandmother's knowledge. Because that canoe has to be successful. It has to find land. Land that we can live on for the next 7 generations. How did we let this happen to Hawaii? I've been a part of Hokulea now for 35 years. Sailed around the world. Sailed to a place in Samoa called Swains Island, inhabited for 500 years. Took the last people off that island. The island is underwater today. Climate change. The work that you do, the work that you're doing, is important to the success of the next 7 generations. The work that you pass on to the next generation, the success of their 7 generations is important. I don't know the work that you do. But when Gabby and Christina spoke, I knew what they're talking about. Because those are things that I see as an Indigenous person. Live on an island. You see and feel change before anybody else. Because you live on an island. What you do every day at some point involves Mother Nature. Because you live on an island. So you see and feel these things before others. We gotta stop the injection wells. We have to invest. We have to find the funds, federal money, so that we can live at home. So that we can have what our grandparents had. So you can leave and experience what your great grandkids you're not going to see. Like I said, this should have happened 30 years ago. So there is no wave too big. For you to ride. Look and feel your island. Set the course. Set the course for success. Set the course. My grandma and my 6-month-old child. You write to the success of that sail plan. That's the sacrifice. In turn, it doesn't become about what you can lose. It becomes about what our place will lose. And you have a clear path to that voyage. You know, when Stuart asked me to come, I tried to talk him out of this. And he got pretty upset. I said, no, Archie, you have to be here. I live in Lahaina. I know everything that has happened to the place. I know what we have to do to take care of it. Boils down to people listening, making a financial commitment to change. Putting our people on the island first. Not our visitors. We need them, but we have to put our people first. Those are the commitments that we have to make to ourselves. So I'm going to say to you, Stuart, if there's anything that I can do, any level, to be committed to this effort, to make our home clean, livable, beautiful, you have my support. Thank you all for what you do. We in Lahaina appreciate it. Mauna Kea, open the door. Lahaina is bearing the burden of all of Hawaii's suffering. So many levels, so many fronts, and it's all catching up to us. So let's fight the fight. Let's ride that big wave. Let's paddle down that face and let's stand up and let's go. Thank you.
I knew that was going to be powerful. I didn't think it was going to be. So I won't say much because it's hard to talk after that. But I really want to mahalo you for coming over because I know it was hard to talk about and to revisit these things. But what Archie talked about reminds us what's at stake. We live in an era of, climate change is going to be more extreme weather, more events like this. So we cannot keep on doing things the way we've done. It will not work. We have to rethink the way we do things. We have to rethink our infrastructure. We have to break down the silos that separate different government agencies from each other. And always keep Lahaina in our minds that we pledge that that won't happen again, that we can do better. And we have the talent, God knows, here in Hawaii, in this room. We have the commitment and the dedication. And if we mix, I've always said, if we mix that indigenous wisdom with the best of science and technology, we can solve problems. But there are a lot of people think that it's just technological. Western science will figure this out. We cannot. If you don't use that indigenous wisdom, you will not know, you will not be able to tap into that ancient wisdom that can give us so much more knowledge about how to take care of things, because they took care of these islands for a minimum of 800 years with no contact from the outside world. So thank you again, Archie, and we're going to take a break. We encourage you to visit our tech partners in these rooms, get some raffle tickets. All right, everyone, thanks for taking a little break with us. Hopefully you got to talk to our tech partners who've traveled a lot from the mainland and from several thousand miles away to be here. Mostly by airplane. We did recommend boat, but none of our partners really took us up on that. The more sustainable way, but they didn't go for it. But we're just really happy to have all of our tech partners here. So fortunate to have everyone in the same room, our partners, our foundations, our supporters. And you've heard from most of our team today, and what an incredible speech by Archie. I live on Maui. I lived in Lahaina for a couple of years. I actually got out of there just before the fires, but I'm part of a canoe club. He has it right. It's all about Native Hawaiians had it right. All about Mount Makai, where the oceans and the land meet. At this point, I don't even know if we want the rivers and the lands to meet at this point with how dirty the water is. But the Native Hawaiians certainly had all the fundamentals and all the knowledge of how to do things the right way. And so you've heard today a little bit about our team, starting with Gabby with our workforce development. A great successful program where we've been selected with $1 million grant from the EPA. What's been a huge component of what we do and a huge pillar of WAI. Then you also heard from Christina in water quality and just all the great work she's doing there. And that really is a fundamental backbone. And I just bring that up because at WAI, we're a nonprofit. And so when we talk about water quality, we talk about workforce development, those are all grant funding from our partners and our sponsors, and our funders and our donors. So this is all
really cool stuff. And this is something that we're all super passionate about. But really another area that I focus on as project manager at WAI is really working on our pilot projects and our innovative technology. And that's kind of what we'll transition to now. And it's another big pillar of WAI's. So one of the grants that we're super excited about, and we have a few folks in the audience today that are working on this grant, is the National Science Foundation grant. You may have heard about NSF. They're a very well-known, nationally recognized science-based organization. We received this grant about a year ago. We were working with the University of South Florida with Daniel Ye, if you put your hand up, and Robert Baer, and Gary as well. They're visiting us all the way from Florida. And then we're also working with University of Hawaii at Manoa. Joy, I believe you're in the audience too. Thanks so much for coming. And we're also working with an engineering team, Swiftwater Solutions. Al, I believe you're also in the audience. Thanks so much for coming all the way from Colorado. But really, this is Daniel's project and Robert's. These guys are the masterminds behind this technology. And really what it does is it takes wastewater from multiple homes that are on cesspool and connects it and cleans it with this wastewater treatment system. So as Stuart and Gabby has mentioned, we have over 83,000 cesspools across the Hawaiian Islands. Doing those on a one-by-one basis is going to take a long time, and it's probably not going to be practical. Yes, we're probably going to have to do some conversions on a one-off basis, but really the reason behind we got this National Science Foundation is this wastewater technology can hook up multiple homes that are on cesspools to this one system. So we can knock out 10 to 15 cesspool conversions at one time. This is something that we're really seeing is more scalable, something that the National Science Foundation is very interested in. And the name of this technology, as I should mention, is the new generator. And really it's solar powered. It fits in 1/3 of a shipping container. You've probably seen a lot of shipping containers in Hawaii. But really utilizing that space and around 1/3 of it to really take that treated waste, take the wastewater, treat it to a very high level effluent quality. So, and you may have heard this term R1, which is the highest recycled water you can possibly get. So this is a system that takes it, treats the wastewater to that high level effluent. We are currently in phase 1 of this project. We've gotten about a year ago. Daniel and Robert have deployed this in places like South Africa and India, where they used the toilets for school and reused the treated wastewater for flushing the toilets instead of using fresh, clean drinking water. So really innovative, something that we're super excited about. And it just happens to coincide with the convening that we're applying for phase 2 at the end of this month. So you can see Daniel over there, probably hasn't slept in a few days. He's been working on finalizing this proposal, and that man himself does not sleep, I will tell you. Just such an incredible individual. He's got all the recognitions. I mean, the amount of MBAs, PhDs that we have on that team is quite incredible, and Robert and Gary himself too. So we're really excited about this project. And, you know, we got some initial funding in phase 1, but this phase 2 pilot will be up to $5 million over 3 years. And really one of the interesting places that we've already talked about a lot in this meeting today is Waiʻi. This is really, if we get that phase 2 funding, this will be a place we can take that wastewater technology and pilot it there in the subdivision and in the fishing village, hopefully. And just to provide a little bit more background on Waiʻi, as the team has touched on, it's not only a community-based subsistence fishing area which needs to be protected and is protected, but it's also got a lot of overdevelopment going on, and there's a host of wastewater issues. And then also something we haven't really touched on is the soil there. It's all on top of lava. So, you know, a typical septic system with the leach field is not really going to work because the soil is what really does a lot of the treatment. And when you have lava, it's very porous. There's not much treatment happening. So that's really, it's just really kind of the mecca of where we can have really to do a pilot, because Hawaii is just such a challenging place for so many reasons. And Waiʻi it's 2 hours south of Kona. It's a very remote community. They're all on water catchment. If you guys are familiar with that, they're just catching water from the rain when it very rarely does rain. And then some individuals are even having water trucked in from town and brought over. So we're really interested in this technology because for the windward sides of the place where there's not enough water and in places that are really water conscious, and what this technology can do is treat that water, use it. We can use it for irrigation. Stuart's already mentioned this about fire protection, but instead of using, you know, drinking water, we can put that treated wastewater into storage tanks and then use it for a fiery day in this fire season that is all too prevalent on these islands. And then another thing that we'll be doing is we'll be getting a certification process. So as part of this pilot, we'll be working with DOH to get this new innovative technology approved in Hawaii, which will really be a cool demonstration of all the work we've been doing. And then just quickly after this, we're going to show a quick video we did with the National Science Foundation for our phase 1. And really, you're going to learn a little bit more about the project, but then also, you know, we try to think of clean water as kind of a developing country issue. And you'll see here that we have enough in the developed countries to work on. There's work going on in Alabama's Black Belt, which is very similar to Hawaii in a lot of ways, where there's not a lot of soil and there's not a lot of biodiversity in the soil. So we are looking at, this is really a federal issue and a national issue that we need to take and prioritize now. And it's not only happening in Hawaii, it's happening across nationally and not just in developing countries. So with that, I will just play a quick video here. Hopefully we'll give you guys just a little bit more background on the project.
Most of my childhood or in construction sites, just because I grew up in a suburb that was. I spent most of my childhood in 2 places. One is either in the streams or in construction sites, just because I grew up in a suburb that was completely under construction. I could see the changes of an environment, and I also saw how much our state has been overrun by, I'd say, engineering solutions that may not be that conducive for the environment that we live in. And that's what we're in the middle of today. We're trying to figure out how the infrastructure that we had put in the 60s and 70s is affecting us.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about why traditional systems in Hawaii just don't work.
We've created a system that is, based on most municipal systems on gravity sewer and using tons of energy to pump wastewater miles and miles to treat it and then discharge it in the ocean.
Primary treatment and secondary treatment. It starts when the raw sewage enters the plant.
With all the incredible expenses of doing that in Hawaii, you can imagine it's almost double the expense. Everything has to be shipped out to Hawaii. There are a lot of challenges in that our soils, we don't have healthy soils, and so many decentralized systems like septic and cesspools aren't nearly as effective. So we've kind of had to figure out and find ways to introduce new technology to Hawaii.
We wanted to ask about your wastewater system.
Do you know what this does?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of impacts to this reef because there's this whole cesspool situation going on. There's a wastewater treatment plant. Did you guys see that when you drove by on the left? So
there are many communities in the U.S. and they're often remote and isolated. Centralized sewer may not be feasible for them. Or maybe they have piped infrastructure, but that infrastructure was put in 50, 60, 70 years ago and is now collapsing.
Whether we have leaks in our centralized system or if we're dumping it straight through our cesspool and letting it leach into the ground, it eventually makes its way into the streams. And for those communities that have sea level rise, it's coming even faster. But the solutions to me, I can now actually see how it can get better.
On the right side, you see the treatment process, and on the left side, the control system, electrical. So it is a utility in the box.
This mini sewage system, called a new generator, was developed by University of South Florida engineering professor Daniel Ye and his research team.
We are developing neighborhood-level technologies that provide treatment for a cluster of homes. The technologies that we're bringing are solar-powered. They can essentially turn wastewater into renewable resources, meaning we can recover recycled water, we can recover renewable energy, and we can recover nutrient fertilizers. In these technologies, we're using bio-inspired design to use microorganisms that can utilize iron, which is plentiful in the soils of Hawaii, to transform nitrogen and remove nitrogen.
If you take a look at those bottles, there's pumps going in, pH control, aeration control, just to see how fast is the iron reducing process, how fast it leaches out.
It takes more than just engineers, it takes more than just regulators, it takes more than just policy. It's about bringing together this diverse group of people to solve this grand societal issue, and most importantly, it's about listening to communities. When you're looking at engaging with them, all of that upfront legwork is really what this Convergence Accelerator is about.
Water access and sanitation in Hawaii and many other communities across the U.S. are sort of invisible because you can't drive through the community and see the problem. The problem's actually happening under their feet, but the very resources on which they depend are put in peril if we don't actually deal with this hidden problem.
We've made ourselves codependent on these systems, many of which no longer function, and it's put a lot at risk. And I think we've done that as a society to ourselves, but we now have the ability to localize that technology and allow people to be self-sufficient and self-reliant again. Wherever we as humans go, we have to take the same values of treating the environments that we go to with the same respect. I want to build that way, and I feel like the generations of architects and engineers that come after me need to have that kind of sensitivity in order for us to succeed as humans who love to expand our horizons. So that's the reason.
Right. Yeah, so feel free to talk to our NSF partners who come in from around the country. Many of them worked with Dig Deep and with the Gates Foundation, so we're really bringing like incredibly talented people to Hawaii to work with our local engineers, contractors, and we have a local engineer here who's be talking about a project in Mililii that we're working on. So I'm going to talk about, further talk about innovative technology that we brought to Hawaii. One of the, before I start, the reason that we're doing this is, kind of start with a slide, is when I was on the cesspool conversion working group, people were saying, oh, well, we're just going to have to convert all these cesspools to septic systems. And I was like, oh, dear God, no, I'm not going to volunteer 4 years of my life to go from one terrible system to a very mediocre system that still releases nitrogen in the environment and harms our reef. And so thanks to people like Ted and Erica and other people in the cesspool conversion working group, we were like, we can't just go to one bad system to another. We have a chance to leapfrog and become, go from the last state to have the most cesspools per capita in the country to really developing some of the most innovative technology. And so we do that. We're very agnostic about who we choose. We look for companies that fill certain gaps that are missing in Hawaii. And so instead of supporting, the whole company, we're supporting things that they're doing that are really advanced. And as I said, this is a lost leader mission. If any of you have worked, you know the bureaucracy is very intense in Hawaii and it's very difficult, and we've got to break through that. It is a real problem and it needs to be solved. And so we find organizations that support our mission, that bring innovative technologies, and very important, they're going to reuse our resources, because really 100% of what we treat can be reused. And that's the amazing thing, because right now we spend millions and millions of dollars treating it, and what do we do with it? Pump it out into the ocean. The last place we need to do it, and then it does have harmful effects there. And so we need it on the land, and we need it to, irrigate these fire breaks, these green belts that can protect us. And so we want companies that have a mission-driven ethos, are committed to help solve our wastewater issues, and are willing to do low bono and pro bono work and donations and workforce development. And so along, we introduced these technologies to Hawaii that didn't exist before. And so one is the Elgin geotextile sand filter system, GSF. We put one in the ground in Waialua. We've done one on the Big Island. They donated all of their time and equipment to make this happen. So really very generous. You can talk to Scott in this room over here. Scott, where are you? All right, way back in the back. The gentleman with the tie, so he will stand out. He's the best looking one of all of us. He's dressed up today. And then we did, and that's a veteran-owned organization, really impressive. They help out veterans across the country. And one of those people we helped was a veteran, and they donated everything. Ridge to Reefs is a fellow nonprofit, and they developed a passive system. These first two are passive, where it doesn't require pumps. And they, have done 2 pilot projects in Hawaii that are in progress. And just passively, by using the right amounts of sand and wood chips and these different layers, they're getting rid of 80% of nitrogen. That's impressive. We also have Cinderella toilet. We introduced that on the right in a pilot project in Coconut Island, which is with HIMB, and now there are 50 units across Hawaii. And Hawaii is a leader in the country with this. We also have Dennis Poma in the back, his partner representing Fuji Clean, which is one of the highest performing ATU units, because what we looked at was, we're not just looking for a company that does ATUs. We based it on Stony Brook University's research and said, this is the highest performing by far, and the smallest. So that's kind of crucial in Hawaii. So I want to introduce our first partner. We're a little behind schedule, so we're going to move quickly. Infiltrator is our newest partner. They're one of the largest wastewater companies in the country. They are also the #1 recycler of plastics. So a lot of their plastic they use, they get recycled plastic in the nation. And so for these things we're putting in the leach field, these chambers, it's all recycled plastics that are being reused again. So that we really like that model a lot. So help me give a warm welcome for Jay Holman.
All right, cool. Hello, Jay Holman with Infiltrator Water Technologies. That one's not working yet.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
All right. Been with Infiltrator for 21 years. Through those years, we've had a lot of evolutions, innovations, acquisitions. We are not the company I started with 21 years ago. All right. Infiltrator was founded in 1987, based in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and that is still where our headquarters is today. 650 plus employees company-wide. We have 190 plus patents, either granted or pending. That kind of speaks to our innovation. We're continually keeping the pipeline full with our engineering and tech team. We have facilities in Alabama, Illinois, Kentucky, North Carolina, New Hampshire, Louisiana, Oregon, and Texas. Our largest facility being in Winchester, Kentucky. That's where we do the main manufacturing of our injection molded parts. We are the largest manufacturer of on-site and decentralized products in the US. In 2019, we were acquired by Advanced Drainage Systems, ADS, so large flat corrugated pipe, but we function as a solely owned subsidiary. So we are under their umbrella, but still function as Infiltrator Water Technologies. We have the largest on-site wastewater sales force in North America. We do have representatives in Canada as well as the US. We have partnerships with WAI, obviously, Habitat for Humanity. We're an affiliate of NAURA, as well as multiple state agencies such as WOSA in Washington. We have basically, on our decentralized platform, we have 3 platforms. We have our drain field platform, which would be your leach fields, your soil-based leach fields. We have our tanks, which would be your septic tanks. So you have primary treatment, your secondary treatment. And then we have our advanced treatment systems as well. And under that umbrella, we have both mechanical systems as well as passive systems in the advanced enviroseptic as well as the newly introduced Aerofin product. The passive, what we call CTDs, combined treatment and dispersal, very much like the Elgin that Stuart just spoke to, you're getting your treatment in the leach field, and it's performed in conjunction with a system sand, specified sand. We ship our tanks palletized to Hawaii, and then our distributors put them together. So our shipping density is very strong, which keeps us affordable, which helps the market. Our reach in Hawaii, we're very proud of this. We partner up with distributors, and we do have distribution points on each of the major islands. We've got Pacific Pipe on the Big Island. We have Pacific Pipe, ISI Hawaii Water Solutions on Maui. We have on Oahu International Wastewater as well as Pacific Pipe. And now we do have a location on Kauai with International Wastewater. So they are our business partners. We sell our products through distribution. So they're the ones on the daily basis that are dealing with the local population, taking care of installers, taking care of contractors, at times taking care of homeowners. We've done a couple of major large-scale projects on the islands over the years. This one I did confirm, Chris. I apologize for not getting hold of you sooner. This is Bellows Air Force Base. So what these cabins, if you will, are, it's a retreat for the armed forces. They can rent these and bring their family and have a Hawaii vacation. Lo and behold, my younger brother, who's 16 years younger than me and a retired Marine, has done this multiple times and just informed me of that a couple weeks ago. So I'm not going to get into trying to read the text to you, but the challenge was we had 15,000 gallons per day that needed to be treated properly and off of the cesspool. And we found ways to incorporate aerobic treatment units for each unit, and then in conjunction going to a community drain field. And then on the island of Maui, the Laloa Malaya Resort, did I say that properly? Close. Not even close, I apologize. I've been coming to Hawaii for almost 15 years working, I still can't pronounce anything. But again, dealing with 21,000 gallons per day effluent. And this is, I was out there prior to the installation. I was out there when Valley Out Pumping put it together. And they had to remove a non-functioning package treatment plant. So that had to be disassembled, removed. And then they had utilized that same space to bring it up to today's standards. And they're a great partner. Jake can speak to Sal and his group, but it was a neat project. It was one of the first projects that I was very involved with, and I had a good time doing it. Briefly, and I'm not going to steal any thunder because I don't know what I don't know, but we just recently announced that Infiltrator has in earnest purchased Aranco systems. So there are Aranco representatives here that will speak much more in detail, but we are excited about it, being from the Infiltrator side. Tremendous company with tremendous products, and we are looking forward to, in the near future, the decentralized wastewater industry seeing the synergies of these two preeminent companies come together to provide more solutions, not only on the mainland, but right here in Hawaii. And I know that many of you can attest to their products and the solutions that they bring. So just briefly, and this is in closing, and this might be a little bit better for Thursday during the roundtable, but just some challenges that we particularly have faced in Hawaii. And I don't think that these are any surprises, but a lack of regulatory staffing, both at the state and local level, has, what we have seen has created a slowdown in the approval and permitting process. And so you have folks that are having challenges getting their cesspools upgraded. You have a design that is ready to go. You have contractors ready to put it in, and it sits, and it sits, and it sits. So that is a challenge that we have seen. One of the other challenges that we face is the large system requirements found in Hawaii. And I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but 200 gallons per day per bedroom is gigantic. It's the largest in the country. Yet Hawaii has the smallest lots and places to put things. Those two things are juxtaposed. And so I hope that maybe we can address that at some point in the future. And then local material and availability adds to our system cost. So speaking specifically to our combined treatment dispersal systems, such as the Aerofin and advanced ferroseptic, those are utilized in conjunction with a specified sand. It's Hawaii. All of my friends on the mainland think that, oh, sand's everywhere. Guess what? It's not. So we are finding some flexibility in the material specs. And I think we're starting to get over that hump. But that is one of the challenges when we're looking to put folks into a passive system that takes no power, no energy, no maintenance, and still provides the level of wastewater treatment. But we've got to find sources of that sand and find it in an economical means. So those are three kind of general talking points for the roundtable on Thursday, but wanted you folks to be aware. And that is it. Did I make it?
Yes.
And we do want you guys, if you have questions, please kind of just file them away, put them on your phone, just because we do want you to interact with them. We're just running a little behind, so we need to keep the show going here. We are going to, I'm going to tell you briefly about a supplemental environmental project that involves Infiltrator and Elgin and some of our biggest partners. Now, how many people have ever heard of a SEP? Okay, it's very unsurprising only two of you would. We've had people in the wastewater business that they said they had never heard of this. This is a program that the EPA has called a supplemental environmental project. Whereas if a large company, say we're working with American Savings Bank and Hawaii Gas, if they had large capacity cesspools, and often they didn't realize that like properties that they own but don't directly manage or operate, the EPA comes in, they're like, you got to pay these fines. And no one knew about this, and we heard about it. And so we were like, let's use those fines and help that fund local projects. The EPA allows this. And so we took advantage of this, and we've been able to do 2 of them, and we want to do a lot more across the state. Because you can imagine, like, instead of sending that money to the US Treasury, let's keep it here in Hawaii, and we use the money to help local people, low-income folks who otherwise couldn't afford to convert their cesspools, and we'll pay for it. So American Savings Bank, we did this. We had 3 projects, 3 conversions, enough money to do that. 2 are approved. 1 project still needs permitting. And again, I will, express some frustration in that this is established. They're the largest national company in the country in this field, and we can't get the technology approved. It should be like this. We need to be, instead of doing 150 cesspool conversions a year, we need to be doing 3,000 to meet the deadline. So that's how far behind we are, just so we have a reality check. This is one way that I think we can really get there. And so we're going to do that with 2 cesspool replacements in Hawaii after we finish this project this year. Next year, we'll be doing those. So that's something that we can explore more of, especially with the large landowners that are definitely going to have large capacity cesspools and cesspools on their property that we can use as a model. Now, I'm going to skip this next slide super fast. You're not going to like this, but we're way behind. So this is not going to happen. But those bags are still going to happen. And the prizes, so make sure you you can get 2 tickets from each room from our different partners. So make sure you go in there and talk to them and get some tickets. But now I want to introduce Chris Nally from Closina. And I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but does anybody know who Closina is? From Greek mythology.
Only because of my conversation in this
Okay.
room.
Okay, so we won't say what it is. You need to go and talk to Chris and find out what it is. Warm welcome to Chris. So I have quite a few slides, so I'm going to move through it relatively quickly. We don't have any case studies on the island. We've been supporting WAI for a while now, and our family is behind what's happening here. So, we're happy to have an opportunity. Before I get in, I just really want to say, Gabby and everyone in the Work for Water, I'm really grateful to have been involved in that to a minimal level. I'm a wastewater operator. I have been since '97. I've been able to raise a family and buy a home and send my kids to college, and I really promote it everywhere I go. So if you know any young people that don't know what they want to do but don't want to sit behind a desk, it's literally like $500 to become an operator. So you can push them in that direction, and there are literally thousands of jobs everywhere you go. I've been offered a job in Antarctica twice. So that's how bad they need wastewater operators. So yeah, we're kind of the big boys in the room. We don't do local treatment. We're kind of in as a pipe group. So we would do new development, replacement of existing infrastructure, or clusters of development if they can get collection systems to us. So I'm just going to quickly go over what a membrane bioreactor is. A membrane bioreactor uses an activated sludge process. All the treatment systems that we're discussing today utilize organisms to basically oxidize or convert the organic material in wastewater. Our activated sludge, we use that as suspended in liquid. Because we use mechanical clarification now, meaning we can pull the clean water out of the dirty water, we can put a lot of bugs and organisms in a very small footprint. So it utilizes, as I said, mechanical clarification. Ultrafiltration is like 0.04 nanometers. We're literally able to leave everything behind prior to disinfection. We use less power because, again, small footprints, we could take advantage of the bubbles in the water. And because we're not relying on settleability and those things, we can see a lot more of this system remotely than with older technologies. The traits of an MBR, or at least the way we do it, is that we pre-engineer and fabricate these in our factory in California. And then they are tested and broken down and shipped to a site. So we're able to cut out a lot of the historic costs associated with municipal projects. We use municipal spec equipment, materials, programming, etc. The same design parameters that you would use for a concrete structure, but we do it out of stainless steel and in packages that can go from, that's a 15,000 gallon per day unit. We can go up, we're doing projects now that are 2 million gallons a day. So we're replacing ponds and antiquated infrastructure. There's one constant in this industry, and that's it, it's failing every day. That's it. The day it's installed, it's the day it starts to fail. And the entire infrastructure across the US is failing. So membrane technology allows us to put basically at point water treatment. 70s and 80s, we had these ginormous systems. We funneled everything there and it went out. Now we're kind of backtracking and we're moving up the collection system and starting to put reuse units at point of disposal. It's called sewer mining, or scalping systems are becoming very popular, where you're actually taking water from the community sewer system and repurposing it on-site irrigation. So it's not even your wastewater, but you're taking it out of the community wastewater collection system. So types of applications for what we do, they're remote sites with no access to regional sewer. They're high traffic and condensed populations, schools, hospitals, retirement communities, golf courses, housing developments, and as I said, scalping and sewer mining. I travel the country. These problems are everywhere, whether it's related to expansion or rapid development. That's what is occurring in like Texas and Colorado, that the communities can't even keep up with the growth in infrastructure. So we're putting in temporary plants, or remote systems. And as I said, replacing antiquated systems. I'll just look to show you a couple of projects that we're doing. This is a casino, a tribal project in California that we were able to put in a building, keep out of sight. But this is an example of a 200,000 gallon per day wastewater treatment system with on-site sludge dewatering. So when you're growing those organisms and feeding them, they're populating, and you have a side stream of a waste organisms, your waste or activated sludge, about 1% solid. So it's a lot of liquids to dispose of. So these technologies will take it and actually utilizing polymer, convert it to a solid so that it can be utilized for cap at a landfill or even composted. We can do this particular project is an upgrade of a 1990s treatment system. It's primary treatment, so it was only designed to meet 30-30, meaning BOD and suspended solids still exist in the waste stream. Doesn't even have a nitrogen limitation, so we put in a side stream there's a golf course on the other side of this project. So now we're taking about 70% of the water that was going to the ocean outfall and diverting it to reuse at the nearby golf course. And this project's actually in expansion now. It's only a year old. Something I wanted to talk about that may be applicable on the island, if anybody wants to partner with me, is we're building rental units now. So this is a 30,000 gallon per day system that is just designed to be rolled on, rolled off a ship or onto the site, and it can treat 30,000 gallons a day of reuse quality water. We're utilizing this in emergency response locations, long-term maintenance solutions, or communities that aren't meeting their discharge requirements, and we can side stream or blend the effluent. So we're cranking these out. We're building about one a month right now, trying to keep up with the demand. Again, we're a family business. It's just me and my three brothers that own this. We don't have investors, so we're grassroots. We're really focused on reinvestment and trying to actually make a dent in an industry that, at this level and up has been very archaic and slow to move. And, we're really trying to save communities money. I mean, we're doing a tribal project in the desert in California, and we shaved $30 million off the engineer's estimate by just pre-engineering the project and 18 months off the project schedule. So I never want to disappoint Courtney. Keeping me on task is hard, so I'll be over here if you guys are at. It's mobile, and we can build on it. It's modular. And so if you're a developer and you want to do housing and you have phases, to develop the whole system out for the whole phases when it could take 10, 20 years or whatever, how long your time frame is, that's impossible. And so here for like emergency uses, small towns, rural towns that you can use, they can come in, and it's really helpful. And so we're really looking at a decentralized model. And part of that, one of our other partners is another company that has been family owned as well, Arinco, and they are taking care of the problem of conveyance. How do you get the waste to, especially if you're in a rural area, to these decentralized areas? Mike has been so helpful. I can't even tell you, with projects around the state, whenever we need his advice. He comes from a utility background working for counties in Florida, and he's just been so helpful. So let's give a warm welcome. Thank you. Okay. So as Stuart said, we're kind of in our final days as a family-owned company. Been around for 43 years as a family company. So sometimes when we show up at events and people refer to us as innovative or new, that's actually almost insulting to us because we've been doing this a long time. We're also a lot bigger than people figure. We're about 450, 460 employees today, based in Sutherland, Oregon. So it's kind of funny you hear the word decentralized and distributed, and I'll kind of explain that in a second. But
we kind of joke about it that we were doing decentralized and distributed wastewater before we even knew it was a thing. So we kind of, I think we missed the boat on kind of capturing that slogan, but we probably could have. My background, as Stuart said, I actually spent 10 years with a public utility, and it's worth noting that in Florida we had a septic to sewer program, 45,000 septics that were damaging Peace River estuary. And I actually started the same week as the Board of County Commissioners canceled the program after spending $20 million. It was a gravity program. It literally had thousands of people showing up at public meetings, screaming and yelling because it was too expensive. And so that kind of spurred my creativity in trying to figure out solutions. We were in violation of what the state mandate was to us, and we were going to lose state funding. And so I actually came back and did a variation of what I'm talking about today, and did almost 10,000 properties. I'd like to think we got ourselves out of trouble, and certainly it has been. So it was pretty natural that I landed at Aramco, I think, because that's the way Aramco's wired. They were founded actually to find solutions for small communities in the mountains of Oregon. And to this day, they kind of hold true to that we're more of a solutions company. Yeah, we sell products, we have to sustain ourselves, but when you talk to people at Aramco, it's all about preserving clean water, and it's about finding solutions, and the products kind of have been evolved and are used by default to find those solutions. So I'm going to talk about two key components today. On the left is Prelos, which is a collection system. On the right is Advantex, and you can see various size. Just get used to our verbiage. They're referred to as pods in our world. So various size pods that we assemble to get to whatever capacity we need. All right, so I promised that try to explain distributed and decentralized treatment. So the concept of decentralized and distributed treatment is really that you want to provide treatment as close to the source as possible. And that can come in many forms. That can be just be a single family home where you collect and treat it there. It can be advanced treatment at a single family home. It can be in clusters where we have a treatment plant local to that and small collection lines. It can be big clusters. We have systems in the thousands of connections. So it gets a little confusing when we start talking about scaling all the way from a single family home up to thousands of homes. But that's the reality. And the cool thing about this technology is that it is scalable. We keep following the same principles all the time. And when you get asked often, it's like, why is this everywhere? Well, I can tell you when I went to school for civil engineering, this wasn't taught. I took one wastewater course, focused on transportation, and landed in wastewater. Who figures that? But I can tell you that my course I was not taught. I was taught gravity sewer. I was taught activated sludge plants. This wasn't on the horizon. Even to this day, when we hire engineers, we hire entry level because it's still not being taught in college. There's only like 2 books that are written that actually have this type of technology in it to this day, even though we've been around for 43 years. So the basic concept always starts with the same thing: is at the source, we're actually going to use something similar to a septic tank. And usually everybody cringes. So little history here is the systems have been referred to STEP systems or septic tank effluent pump systems. At Aramco, we hate that. The reason being is it starts with septic tank, nothing against septic tanks, but it really gives people the wrong idea. What we want to capture is what septic tanks really do really, really well. They provide free primary treatment. So if you have a very high quality tank that is watertight, robust, made for commercial applications, kind of makes sense to do free primary treatment at the source. And we take advantage of that afterwards. So we take advantage of that in conveyance, we take advantage of that in treatment, because 60% of the treatment occurs at the source. So whether we're scaling to a single family home or scaling to thousands of homes, we take advantage of the fact that the solids stay here, the scum stays here, and there's a clear zone that you can see in the middle of the tank. These are designed just to pump from that clear zone. 60% of your treatment occurs before it leaves the property. So in an on-site system, you can see it's pretty small. So this is the smallest level of Advantex, an AX20 and an AXRT. These are built to serve single-family homes up to 500 gallons a day. And so thinking about that decentralized example, these would be placed in areas where it makes sense, where it doesn't make sense to front properties because they're 1 acre, 10 acre properties. So we can produce that technology local to those homes. Guess what? we can scale it up. And we can scale it up a lot. So this is the biggest one. It's the AX Max. One of these treats about 7,500 gallons. Remember, our verbiage is pods. We simply add pods to get to whatever capacity. So I don't know who here has been to a wastewater treatment plant. Get used to it. It's big open tanks. There's a lot of air. It's a very violent process. You would not, when you walk up to one of these, you would not know it's a wastewater plant. It doesn't stink. It's closed tanks, and as you can see, they coexist dang close to existing people. So when people say, do they produce odor? And yeah, if they're not operated properly, they can be a problem. But the reality is, when it's operated and maintained properly, we describe it as a sweet, pungent odor. You're not getting, if you ever stand on one, you're going to go, that's a sweet, pungent odor. And we add different types of pods to treat whatever we want. So if you want to get rid of nutrients, we have different configurations for that. So again, this is like a single family home. But guess what? Here's the collection, that Prelos unit here, and that AX20. So I just put this up here to kind of say, hey, when we scale from a single family home all the way through this community system, I'm going to show you that stays. Remember I said we always start with the same thing, same concept. So when you start thinking about milliliter, I mean, because this is what we've been talking about today, think back to that graphic. I'll even back up here. Remember, we've got a mix of clusters, we've got a mix of on-site, might even have just some septic systems. Guess what's here all the time? That Prelos unit. It's repeating itself throughout this process. So now take a really difficult, and I'm going to tell you, in my career, this is one of the more challenging examples. If you're not totally familiar with this, 1,200 feet from top to bottom. Hydraulics are a problem. Density at the bottom, small lots. As you move up the hill, they get to bigger lots. We've got rock. Well, start thinking about this now. I've got all these little tools in the toolbox, right? I've got collection system I can put down here. Elevation's 200 feet here, and I can go to a treatment plant locally. I could go to multiple treatment plants if that makes sense. There was a treatment plant 5 miles up the road. These could actually go to that and be designed for that. As I move up the hill and the lots get bigger, maybe it doesn't make sense to run collection lines up this hill. So then you can use site-specific technology. It makes sense. I showed you an example. You've seen a lot of other examples here today. If they match to what the property needs, they have a presence there. And again, it's site appropriate, right, to get to the best economic model that you can do. And if you're just trying to figure out what this looks like, so this is just usually a 2-inch main off the side of the road, not tearing up the road or anything. That Prelos unit is on site, 1.25-inch line connecting it, and simply gridded throughout that system. And that's what I always kind of describe it as. You've seen people put in water lines. These systems behave like water lines. It's not deep pipe. You start thinking about gravity sewer through this. It'd be tough. You've got pipe, 10, 15 feet in the ground. You got lift stations. You're tearing up the road to put it in there. It's just a different example. So hopefully that gives you a little bit. It's easy to get up here and fact vomit about how cool our stuff is, but I figured to just give you an idea of at least how it's put in. With that, I'll pass it on.
That man is a wealth of knowledge too, so I suggest that you talk to him and learn more about this, because again, we need more and more options, right? For these remote communities and steep communities that just traditional gravity sewer is not going to work. It's way too expensive, and just physically it won't work. So we need to have other options, and this has been a great option. Next, to kind of explore more of that pilot project that we're working on, I'm going to bring up Dave and Anissa from Ecological Solutions. Yes, and so they have been a pleasure to work with. Dave and I first met because in Maalaea, that article that I was telling you about that featured Archie Kalepa, we talked about reusing the treated wastewater for fire prevention. So Dave and I have been working in Maalaea for a few years, trying to put that into practice. And we've got a grant, a federal grant through Senator Schatz's office to do that and to build a fire break, build a green belt, and then use that treated wastewater to irrigate it. So he's going to talk briefly, he and Anissa, about Milili'i and what we can do there. So let's give them a warm welcome.
All right. Thanks, Stuart. Yes, so my name is Dave, and this is Anissa. Our company is Eco Solutions. We've been working in wastewater for 20 years. I had hair, my goatee wasn't today when we started, and that's how far we've come. I live on Maui. Anissa's in Kona on Hawaii Island. So she's our project manager for Milili'i. So any specific questions, you can direct them. So we've talked about Milili'i. It's a complex project, and it starts with the community. The community there are two parts. There's a subdivision that has approximately 1,000 building lots in it. And then there's this fishing village that has about 50 existing homes in it, right? So there's two different massive scales. The subdivision has about 250 homes that are existing right now. And when we take a look at our growth rate, you know, subdivision has been around since the 60s. Houses didn't really go in until about the 80s, and now they're averaging somewhere between 20 and 30 houses a year. But it has challenges that are similar to throughout Hawaii, right? So the common challenges throughout Hawaii begins with elevation. And I think Mike pointed to it, saying that, okay, it starts up at the highway, that's about 1,500 feet in elevation, and it goes all the way down to the ocean. So if we are pushing wastewater, pumping wastewater, we have a sewer line that's full of wastewater, that's about 500 PSI pressure. Now to put that in perspective, like your sink in your house is like maybe 30 to 50 PSI in pressure. So that's a lot. And that's more than most plastic pipe that we use for wastewater can handle. So that's a design challenge in and of itself. The second is the volcanic terrain, which impacts the hydrology and constructability, right? There's not a lot of soil there. I mean, you'll see plants growing, but you kind of kick the surface and there's rock underneath it, right? So then that means that it's hard to dig. Unlike the water lines, we can put those on the surface here in certain applications in Hawaii. We cannot put the small diameter force main for sewer on the surface. It has to be buried. So construction techniques that we would typically use when we're retrofitting a community where we would directional drill for piping, not an option. Going in with a mini excavator on the side of the road and just like scratching, you know, with our 12-inch digging bucket, scratching a trench there. Not a possibility, right? We're gonna scratch and hit rock, so we've got a hammer. Literally, the subdivision has 10 miles of roadway in the subdivision. So that's 10 miles of sewer that would have to go in to service the entire community. So that's a challenge. Now, with the volcanic terrain, we also have been talking about hydrology, right? So these on-site septic systems, we go to like percolate the effluent from the septic tank. It's either gonna hit rock and pond and not go anywhere, or it's going to hit rock and find a crack and go straight down to the groundwater, and then the groundwater is hydrologically connected to the ocean. So that's the next common challenge, which is proximity to the ocean. We've been talking about it. You put wastewater in there, you can have viruses, pathogens, nutrients, and then something else that we haven't even brought up, which are the emerging contaminants, which are pharmaceuticals, caffeine even, and PFAS, hormones. All of those things, they're not necessarily regulated, right? So in wastewater, we're typically held to BOD, which is a measure of your organics, TSS, which are your solids. Sometimes we have nitrogen in there. And then when we're doing reuse here in Hawaii, they talk about turbidity, which is a little bit of an outlier, but we take care of that with filters. So then Milili'i, on top of the common challenges, it has its own unique challenges. There's no municipal water serving this community, so everybody's on catchment. Somebody talked about it earlier, but if we're doing septic systems, DOH says that we have to consider every bedroom is 200 gallons per day with a maximum of 5 bedrooms. So that would be 1,000 gallons per day for a 5-bedroom house. That's a huge flow. And if we had 1,000 houses, That's a lot of flow, right? If we go to a community wastewater system, now we're in a different set of the rules. We're at a design flow of like 320 gallons per day per house. Still a lot of flow. When we look at the catchment capacity, right? These houses are closer, they're operating closer to 100 gallons per day. So if we follow the regulated design flow, we're gonna grossly oversize these systems, right? That ties into the timeline for development, right? So we have a total number of 1,000 homes, and we have 250 homes that are existing today. So as an engineer, they say, okay, design a system for them. Well, often we have one shot at money, right? So it's one shot of money to go put in a treatment system to serve this entire community. Well, if we go and apply for a permit approval for the 1,000 homes at the DOH value, we're designing a system that we know is going to be grossly over-designed, that's going to be expensive, and it's going to be a pain to operate because these are living systems, right? There are bacteria that rely on food to keep them alive. If we don't put enough food in there, we don't have enough bacteria, and we can't meet our water quality requirements. So we have to come up with a tricky, savvy way to navigate around that. So looking at our challenges with the elevation, you know, Mike touched on it. And full disclosure, we're not done with the project yet, right? So we're about halfway through our scope of work, but this is where we are with it. We're prioritizing coastal lots, and you're going to see in the next slide, we'll show you the layout for the subdivision, right? But the coastal lots, that's this concentration of about 600 building lots that are down right close to the ocean, and they're on these like 1/10 of an acre to like maybe a 1/4 acre lot. Not a possibility of doing on-site treatment, right? So that we need to sewer it, we need small diameter force main, make those trenches as small as possible. So the volcanic terrain, we're going to do shallow buried, small diameter pipe. Our goal is to treat the wastewater and to a point where we can reuse it for landscape irrigation. The next, proximity to the ocean. Well, our solution is to move the ocean. Just kidding. That was 2/3 of the pun. Yeah. EU, it stinks. That's free. All right. No, but what we're going to do with the proximity to the ocean, we're just going to stop the discharge to the ocean, right? So right now there are cesspools and it's going right down straight into it. If we're reusing it for irrigation, we set that irrigation rate at a rate that's equivalent to the plant uptake rate. So we're not injecting it, it's not trickling down into the groundwater. So design flow, what we're proposing is a successional design flow, right? So we do an initial approval with DOH that's based on existing houses with maybe some buffer for a 5-year build out. And we use the DOH values. In the meantime, we're metering our flow. So we're actually, we have some people from Lixil here. We're going to go tomorrow and we're going to start by putting some flow meters on houses so that we can start to collect some flow meter data. When the wastewater treatment plant is built, you meter the influent flow. After a couple of years, you've got sufficient flow data that then you can use that to go back to DOH and petition them to change the per house flow rate. And then timeline for full build out for the 1,000 lots. That comes down to the selection of treatment technologies. So, you know, I'll just say we try to not use activated sludge treatment technologies and probably lean toward attached stroke technologies. And just because of time, I can talk about that later. So here's the site plan. We broke the community up into 3 zones. The top zone are 5-acre lots, the middle zone are 1-acre lots, and then the purple one is what we're focusing. Those are the coastal lots. There are 600 out of the 1,000 are there. And then we've got the fishing village to the south. And our green spots are areas that we identified for potential reefs. We have solutions A and B. Solution A says that the subdivision and the fishing village work together, share a community wastewater system. It would go on this triangle that's right there. Everybody would be on that small diameter force main and up to that central location. Option B says, no, the subdivision's gonna go to the triangle and the fishing village is gonna have its own treatment system in this coastal area. So I'm gonna turn it over to Anissa right now just to talk about plants, because the plants are really significant and they're often overlooked, because as engineers, like, we're taught about pumps, pipes, we're not taught about the third P, plants. So,
Awesome. Yeah, so there's opportunity to utilize the reuse water in a 20-acre parcel, which is about the square footage that we need in order to be able to evapotranspirate the reuse, so it doesn't discharge into the ground. So what opportunities are there for us to create like a beautiful and functional landscape that's fitting to the community? And, you know, in one case, you can create something like soccer fields or baseball parks, which is something that's missing in the South Kona neighborhood. It's really far, 2 hours from Kona. So having a place for folks to commune in a rural community would be awesome. Additionally, you know, looking at the significance of the area, well, Mili'i in Hawaiian, Mili'i stands for like fine thread or twist. And that's a reference to like beautiful and well-made senate or cordage that was perhaps made from the Milo tree. Another thought is that Mili'i comes from like the little Milo grove that's also down there. And Milo trees were planted back, you know, pre-contact. You know, when the kupuna of Hawaiʻi were here, they would plant them around hale or houses. So another thought is to do like an agroforestry system utilizing native plants as well as canoe crops or Hawaiian introduced plants as well. And of course, there's opportunity for green belts for other reuse projects.
Questions? Any quick questions? We're going to have time to talk with them afterwards.
Any estimated costs for either of those build-outs?
A lot. No, we haven't gotten to the costing, but the bulk of the cost would be the sewer collection system.
You have a ballpark per house for that?
I couldn't say at this point. We still need to clear it by that.
They're in the middle of a preliminary engineering report, and so we're trying to get to that figure.
We're trying to settle on the specific design flow as well, because there's a big target.
Who owns those green triangles? Who owns the land where the dispersal would go?
So that is actually, it's privately owned. Yeah, so there's a land acquisition cost associated with that, but there's a reason why we selected the green triangle, because of the prevailing winds, right? So it's out of the direct pattern of the prevailing winds, whereas like if the system were to go smack dab in the middle, what did you refer to it as? The pungent,
sweet pungent
odor. The sweet pungent odor may not be as well received by everyone. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna, just because we're running a little over time, I just want to do some concluding remarks, but let's give a hand. Literally just died on the last slide, so like that's a good time. And the computer's like, nope, you're done. No more. So yes, that's pretty amazing timing. Just to wrap up, I first want to. I again really wish I could acknowledge every one of you, because you've been part of this. We have board members in the back here, Ted and Maya, if you could raise your hand. Tiffany was here earlier. And we have Representative Luke Ebslin from Kauai, if you can raise your hand. Luke was instrumental in passing a bill to access EPA funding for givable loans. It's offered $1 million to each county, and it's been sitting on the table for a few years. And Luke and Mason Chalk and the Kauai County Council members were like, we have to do something. This is free money. We can't leave it on the table. So they're just launched a program that through the housing office. So in order to build more housing, because we need families that need places to live and workers, if you have a cesspool, you can't build. So in order to get a permit, you have to convert your cesspool. So they came up with a great idea. We worked with them, come up with criteria that if you're going to build housing and you're going to be renting that out and solving our need, we will give you that money, and they give $20,000 rebates to homeowners to help with conversion. So very clever. All the signs are showing, and I actually did want to highlight that poster. Yes, we got our tall people tape, helping out. I do want to thank. We had folks that had to leave, but along with our tech partners, Policina, Elgin, Infiltrator, and Arinco. I also want to acknowledge the person who helped put up our poster, Andrea from Pixel. You probably know American Standard, one of the largest plumbing companies in the world. They have been extremely helpful in this new thing that Gabby was talking about, the Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap, where there's lots of federal funding to help smaller, rural, traditionally disadvantaged communities. So Andrew's been a huge help in trying to go after that funding. And we are working on that with the EPA and their, so there are a lot of exciting projects coming up. I really invite you all to, we're having in this room on Thursday, a roundtable discussion to really now solve problems. How do we fix these regulations? How do we speed up the rate of conversion? How do we make it easier for companies with technology to come in so we have more competition? So we have more, so we have more, okay, cool. So we have more competition and more options for homeowners. We have to bring the price down. People cannot afford $40,000 to convert their cesspool. And so if you know people, and I'm sure you do in your networks, we all know people have cesspools, you know, let's work together and convince them that it's not something that we can go backwards. We have to go forward. And the main thing is to work with us, work with our coalition of partners to find solutions. And on that note, this is just clearly a sign. We have tons of food from Pig and the Lady, one of the best restaurants in Hawaii. And you cannot leave without getting some. We have drinks. You've earned it. You've sat here patiently, and we really appreciate your coming. So give yourself a round of applause.